You mind?
Yeah, so I just want to talk a little bit about my life and understanding
Appreciate
a little bit more about who we are as people, how we show up. So this is one thing I try to tell people is that everybody has a seed that's planted deep inside of them, right? And I call the seed of perseverance. So for me, like I stated, my mother, she was on drugs, she was incarcerated, same thing with my father as well. Grew up in a broken family, grew up in the village.
Which one?
Had 6'9".
That's
Had
what my
six,
family.
okay, had six brothers. My older brother's serving life right now. My little brother is actually got 24 years at the age of 14. So I come from a family of everybody being incarcerated. But for me, how do I come from that environment to where I'm at right now and get my doctorate? So there's one thing that I like talking to people about, right? So my mentor, he gave me this story, right? And I feel like this story resonates with everybody in this room. So my mentor was telling me, he said one day, this old man, he was walking. And as he was walking, he saw a group of elephants. And when he looked at the elephants, he was like, how come these big, massive creatures are stuck behind this little fence? Like, why aren't they escaping? So he went to find the caregiver. As he found the caregiver, he said, hey man, I'm here to ask you a question. Like, why aren't these big, massive creatures not running past this fence? He said, well, we did a trick. At the most weakest and vulnerable form, we put a rope and we tied the rope around their legs. So now that they grew up and they became this big, massive thing, big, massive creature, they still feel like they have this rope tied around their leg, right? So now that these elephants are held captive to their environment, and I try to tell people this too, is that a lot of times people say that you're not smart enough, you're not beautiful enough, you can't amount to do anything that you want to do in your life, and people tend to put a rope around your leg and now you become held captive to your environment. So for me personally, when I was in the second grade, I was at the most weakest and vulnerable form in my life because the feds just kicked down our door and they took my father and they locked my father up. So as this young boy, I'm walking to school, and as I'm walking to school, I remember I'm just sitting there like, man, like I want to do something different than my environment. Like I want my father back. I want my mother to be back mentally, but my mother's not there. And I remember I went to school, and I remember looking on the whiteboard and there was a question. It said, what do you want to do when you get older? And as I'm trying to think and I'm trying to fathom, like, what do I want to do when I get older? I remember I'm sitting there looking at the person in front of me, and that person wrote down like something like, I want to be a princess, right? The person to the right said, I want to be a lawyer. The one to my left said, I want to be a doctor. Now for me, I'm still young, right? I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, but when I look at my community, I see people that look like me, that come from my environment, that made it to the league or made it, in their life, they're professional athletes. So I said, I want to make it to the NFL. So as my teacher goes around the classroom, she gets to the person in front of me, and this blew my mind. She said, what do you want to do when you get older? That person said, I want to be a princess. She said, you'll do excellent at that. That's a good career. You do excellent at that. Got to the person right here and said, what do you want to do when you get older? That person said, I want to be a lawyer. And she said, you'll do excellent at that. Like, that's a good career. Got to this person and said, what do you want to do? That person said, I want to be a doctor. All right, she said, you do excellent at that. That's a good career. As soon as she got to me, and I raised my hand, or as she asked me, like, what do you want to do when you get older? I said, I want to make it to the NFL. She said, pick another career because that's a small percentage of people that make it there. That's the first time someone put a rope around my leg. And so I was hurt. I felt alone. I felt abandoned. At that moment, I remember I said, I don't have nobody in this world. My mother's not there. My father's not there. These teachers aren't there. So I'm just going to act a fool. So I started getting suspended. Then I got expelled, went to an exposure school, a school in East Oakland called East Side, right? So I went to East Side. And I went there, and then next thing you know, I'm incarcerated. I'm locked up. They gave me 15 months custody time. I did 7 months in juvenile hall. I did 8 on ankle monitor. And at that moment, when I was in juvenile hall, I was sitting there, and I was sitting inside juvenile hall, and I was like, I need to do better than my father. I need to be better than my father. I need to do everything that my father was not able to accomplish, and I need to do that to my best ability. So as my time went by, right, it was my last day. And I remember I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for my mom and I'm excited. And next thing you know, it's 6 p.m. And that's the last time someone would come get you from juvenile hall for that day. My mom didn't show up. So now I'm hurt. I go back to court the following week. The judge says, if your mom doesn't show up, we're gonna put you in a group home. And I said, okay. They said, you have 1 more week. It was the last day, it was a Monday. And I remember I was talking to one of the staff members, his name was Drew. I said, Drew, what time is it? He said, it's 5:30. I said, my mom has 30 more minutes to pick me up. And at that moment, I was like, how could she abandon me? How could she leave me? Like, am I not worth it? Like, am I not good enough? Like everybody, like my teacher said I can't do this. People in my community ain't doing what I'm trying to do. My father's been incarcerated, my brother's been incarcerated. I'm trying to do something different. Like, why didn't she want to be there for me? And at that moment, Drew said, hey, right, got some good news. Your mom is here. I went upstairs, get my stuff from my cell, grabbed everything, threw it in the bin. And that big door of freedom and liberation opened up. I ran down the hall. And as I ran down the hall, this lady told me one thing: slow down. And I had to process my emotions and how I truly felt. As young black males, a lot of times we can't process our emotions because a lot of times I was angry, I was always fighting, I was beating people up, you know. But the thing about anger, that's a secondary emotion. It's always a primary emotion that's happening before that. And so for me personally, I was scared and I was terrified because everything I told myself when I was incarcerated, right, it was gonna come to fruition. I was going back to the same environment that put me there in the first place. I said, I'm gonna stop hanging around these people. I'm gonna take school serious. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. The biggest thing that we have in life is we have time, right? And a lot of people feel like time's on our side, but it's not. Because no matter where you at in your life, right? If you say you want to go to the league in 5 years, if you say you want to do this in 3 years, if you say you want to do this in 2 years, time's gonna go. I wrote all those ideas and said, when I get out, I'm gonna do this. But guess what? That time was right there. And was I gonna accomplish or not? The time was on me. So I did one thing in my life. I decided to do one thing. I decided to live. I decided to lead, inspire, and validate my existence. Right? Like, I didn't need to be no more, I didn't need to follow anybody. I needed to be a leader amongst men, amongst boys. I needed to inspire everybody that I came in contact with. And the last thing was, I needed to validate my experience. This is my life. This is my journey. I did not need anybody else's validation. So at that moment when I decided to do that was when I started excelling in school. Right? Because I did that, I got a full ride football scholarship to UC Davis. I was a two-sport Division I athlete. I was a sophomore All-American. I signed with 2 teams to the NFL mini rookie camp, the 49ers and the Browns. Right? Played in the CFL. And then next you know, I started my own business and I'm getting my doctorate. So the biggest thing I want people to do in this room, right? Or even if you're listening to this podcast, right? One thing I want you to do, I want you to decide to live. Many people in this world, they're just breathing, but nobody's living. Right? And so when I decide to live and decide to find my own peace and happiness in this world and to follow my purpose, right? From my own pain, turn my pain into purpose and passion, that's when I decide to live. So I appreciate y'all listening to my story. You know, I just gave y'all overview, but I appreciate it. And that's one thing that I leave with everybody.
Appreciate you sharing. Go ahead, man.
Earlier, Coach P was talking about the listening piece, right? So, Tiffany and Shaman, thank you both. They just really dropped a lot of knowledge, you know, on like a real, like a lot of knowledge. So hopefully, you and the audience was listening, and the ones that's on the podcast, that you're listening as well, because a lot of knowledge was just dropped if you were listening. Okay? We're gonna go into a topic and then try to talk about some stuff, and then if you in the audience have any questions for us, we'll answer those. We only have about another 20 minutes left on the podcast. So one thing that I wanted to touch on, because I'm involved in this a lot, as you're choosing high school, you're leaving middle school and you're choosing high school, right? Do what's best for you and not what's best for somebody else, okay? Make that decision, you and your parents work for you. And then if your parents are not sure, seek somebody, some guidance from a Coach P or somebody that's a mentor in your life. Because the reason I say this, especially by being a student athlete, once you get in high school, right? And you're in the 9th grade, you're in this school, and it doesn't work for you, right? Because somebody else talked you into going there because it's gonna work for them and it ain't gonna work for you. And now you wanna transfer. You get that one free transfer in the 9th grade, that's it. Okay, and then once you start transferring from there, you could end up into an issue where I had to deny probably 4 or 5 kids just this year of not being able to play the sport that they want to play, because they've already played that sport and they've already transferred too many times and they haven't like validly moved. So there's a lot to go on if you're in a school and you want to transfer. Seek the right information. A lot of this stuff is online, but pick up the phone and call somebody. I was just talking to a parent last week where somebody gave her bad advice. She thought that she can transfer her son, like somebody telling, yeah, transfer your son right now, and then have him play football, which he hasn't played football, but he's really a basketball player. Have him play football, and then that would be his sit-out period, which it won't be, because somebody gave her wrong information. If you validly don't change your residence, or you haven't had a safety issue at the school, if you transfer, you're gonna be in a sit-out period. And what does that mean? That means you're gonna sit out half the season. You're gonna miss the whole preseason if you transfer. So if you're a football player and you play varsity football and you transfer from school A to school B, and now you wanna play varsity football and you haven't moved your residence, and you just transfer because you wanna transfer, or if you're transferring for, people always say, well, we transfer for academic reasons. Yeah, you can do that. You can transfer to another school because you wanna be there for academic reasons. But there's a whole different part of going to a school for academics. I tell parents, yeah, you did the right thing, but that doesn't support athletics.
And that can still harm them too, because of the
Correct.
credits.
Yeah, so you did the right thing, you wanna transfer your kid to for academics, but now they can't play athletics. So you have to know what's going on. So that parent thought she can transfer her kid early, have him play football, and then he wouldn't have to sit out for basketball. I said, no, you have to sit out for the sport that you played the year prior. So if you played football and you transfer, you're gonna sit out half the period unless you validly move. Now, do people play games? Like, oh yeah, I got my auntie that live over here, or my cousin, or some people that have money. They have rented apartments, or they have even bought places. But then there's people that, some leagues and some sections send investigators out to go and check that stuff, to make sure that you actually really live there, okay? So then you can be deemed ineligible that way. So just understand what you're doing before you do it, and just seek the right advice. Because, I think in my portal, and I'm just dealing with the San Francisco section, I had probably 26 kids that was waiting for me to approve them December 22nd, so they could play basketball. And they had already sit out half the season already, because they didn't understand the transfer.
Yeah, so we got a couple of young ones in the building right now. What grade you in with, not you, but Danny? Both in the fifth? Yeah, so, this information, actively listening, it's going to come into play when you start choosing your high schools, and when you get into high school. A lot of people, mess up their eligibility just thinking they can just transfer just because they want to. So just take that game and put it here. So if you get into a time where you want to transfer schools, you do it the right way, so you don't lose your eligibility. Mel, you got anything else on that?
Yeah, now, and that's one of the biggest things. And then don't sell yourself short, right? We've had, some families, some kids sell themselves short, where they come out of public school and they either want to go to private school or go to Catholic school, and they don't think they can do it because of the environment that they come from, like what Shimon said, right? So if you're coming from one of the public schools and one of the Catholic schools or private school that you really want to go to, hey, apply yourself. No different what Timothy is talking about, going to college. Don't be afraid to apply yourself and just see where you are. Sometimes you don't even understand, like, you're really smarter than what you think you are, okay? And that, don't be afraid that, hey, I've gone to XYZ public school, I can't go take that Catholic school test. Yes, you can, because somebody has prepared you to take that test. In my club, and me and my guys got together yesterday, I have a young man that, and his family is still it's only the only family on the block on 59th Street, right across from the Bush Rock Park. From the original block of families, his family is the only family that's still on that block. This young man went to Washington. It was called Washington now. Oh, it was Washington back then, right next to the park. Went to Claremont, got into the step-up program, I think, got a full scholarship to Head Boys. That costs a lot of money to go to Head Boys. Yeah. But he got a full scholarship out of Claremont because of his grades. Then got a full scholarship to go to Yale University. Again, because of his grades coming out of Head Royce. Those type of schools don't give athletic scholarships, but they knew he was an athlete, so he played on the basketball team. He was a starting point guard for them. But they give out academic scholarships, okay? And so your environment doesn't determine who you are and what you can be. Okay, Shaman just said that. You make the best of it for you, and don't be afraid to apply yourself.
I know you had mentioned off camera one time about college transfer. I know we just talked about the high
we
school
talk about
transfer.
that, yeah.
And that sometimes, you know, coming out of high school to get to college, sometimes everybody think D1 or bust. And that sometimes there's other avenues outside, and they'll try to go the JUCO route. He was talking on that. I think that's some game we should share on camera real quick too.
All right, so let's touch on this. So since the college sports have went into what they call this portal, right? And so it was an interesting conversation I had with the academic advisor from Cal about 4 or 5 years ago, right before COVID hit, right? And me and her was on a flight together. And she was like, Melvin, you know, this portal is really not good for the student athlete. The kids are going in there. She said there's gonna be about 600 plus kids that will be left in the portal at the end of this portal of people, kids switching colleges and moving around and all this kind of stuff. She said there's gonna be about 600 kids left in there, 600 plus, that's gonna be left in there. She said, I'm looking in there all the time, and now the window is closing, and there's still so many student athletes left in there. So now, as you're being a student athlete, the pyramid is small at the top, okay? It's just small. So now, as a high school athlete, you're coming out, and my best advice is choose who choose you, okay? And the reason I say that, and I'm gonna get into this other part, is that Damian Lillard, who played in our club, right? The first time that Randy Ray, the coach at Weber State, seen Damian's like in the 10th grade, 10th, 11th grade. He told him, you can play for me right now because you got the heart and you got the desire, right? Dame didn't blow up until his senior year, okay? And all these colleges was on him. But you know what he remembered? The one coach that said, you can come play for me right now. And so Dame went to Weber State when all these other big time colleges wanted him. But that coach said he wanted him then before he blew up. And then he's at a small mid-major, playing in the Big Sky Conference, right? Again, he said, I'm gonna make this work for me. Dame led the NC2A in scoring at Weber State. Now that's for all divisions. Division 1, Division 2, he led the NC2A in scoring when he was at Weber State. So no matter where you are, if you got stats, they're gonna find you. Okay? And then when he went into the draft, right? He's with all these other guards. And they projected him to go like, make possibly second round or late first round, because they got all these top guards coming out, right? So Dame went to the combine, and like, that's where you like really go and do your thing. So he went to the combine and he really did his thing. And then they thought like, you know, like, oh, it's just a fluke. Dame said, no, I can do it again tomorrow. I'll come back and do the same thing I did today, I can do it tomorrow. And he did the same thing again. So then he's drafted in the top 10, he drafted number 6, okay? And then, you know, his story is a story. But you have to understand the pyramid of where you are. So let's talk about the portal now. College coaches are taking seasoned kids that are in the portal. So that really affects our high school kids, okay? So if you're not in that, and I'm gonna shrink it to top 50, because there was some kids that was in the top 100.
You talking about coming out of high school?
Coming out of high school, that didn't even get a Division I scholarship, okay? And so, at the end of the day, we talked about what do you do after sports, right? So, I didn't get this D1 scholarship. There's D2, there's D3, there's NAIA that's on the table for these kids, right? And they're like, no, I'm better than that. Well, if you was better than that, you would have gotten that Division I scholarship, right? So you're not better than that. Or somebody didn't think you was better. And then sometimes you are better than that, but it's position based.
Yeah, the position.
Okay?
Absolutely.
That school doesn't need that position, even though you're good at that position. We had a kid that was really good at a position, but all the college coaches felt like he took too many shots when they watched him play, and everybody that wanted him really wanted a point guard, and they didn't think that he was a real point guard, and a real point guard can get everybody else the ball, can distribute the ball. That's what
Sometimes
they call
coaches
it.
get it wrong too.
Yeah, that's what they call it. And so I told the kid he was hurt because he really had the ability to play at the Division I level. And I say, hey man, take this Division II opportunity and get your paper. Because at the end of the day, when you go and apply for a job, unless somebody's connected to Cal or Stanford or Arizona State or whatever, if you get paper from Cal State East Bay or you get a paper from Cal, they're looking at it that you got your paper. That's what they look at, that you got that degree, okay? Unless, somebody in that room is like, okay, I'm not gonna take this person from East Bay, or I'm gonna take this person from Cal because I'm a Cal alum. But what if that person in the room is an East Bay alum? Because the alumni is gonna look out for each other, right? So they'll overlook that Cal degree and look out for their people from Cal State East Bay. That's just how life works, okay? So with that pyramid being the way it is, if you don't get that opportunity to play or get selected to get that Division I scholarship, don't walk away from those others. Now, what kids are starting to do a little bit is, in my opinion, I think they kind of wasted 1 or 2 years of their life, right? They're saying, oh man, I'm gonna go the JC route to try to get back to the Division I route. And then you go that JC route for the 2 years, you get your AA, and guess where they still end up at? At the D2 or the NAIA that they could have already been at the whole time. There's, again, because that pyramid is small because of the portal. A college coach has a job to do, is win. If they don't win, they're gonna get fired. So they don't really care. They care about you, but they don't. And if you look at the history of the Alabamas for football and the Kentuckys for basketball, they know a lot of the top athletes they get, especially like in basketball, they one and done. They already know that. So what are they gonna do next year? They wanna go get the next best athletes that very next year because they gotta keep their job, okay? If you take a look at what Sabian said, the reason why he retired, because all the NIL deals and how the parents and the athletes are addressing him now. Like, I don't need this anymore in my life. I done everything that I can do to help these kids and help these student athletes. I'm getting out because it's not as pure as it used to be. Okay, so just understand that when your opportunity come up and be realistic about where you are. But at the end of the day, we talked about this in the earlier session. What are you gonna do when it's over? Are you in position to live your life and do something positive for you and your family once it's all over?
So, just to kind of hone that all in for the high school, college guys, because of that pyramid, that basically what Mel is saying is that if you have an opportunity and you have a school that wants you, like Weber State wanted, what's his name, Dang, it's worth giving that school a shot and not just thinking that you have to go the D1 route and then go through JC, when you could go to this Division II that's gonna roll out the red carpet for you, and it could be a great opportunity that leads to even more opportunities. Don't just think that it's D1 or bust, because that's not necessarily true. And don't think that it's the biggest school or bust, because that's not necessarily true. And sometimes, I do want to point this out, I kind of said it when you was talking, sometimes coaches get it wrong though too. But that's just part of it. It's something, coaches get it wrong, but you still have to make the most of the opportunities, and making the most opportunities is not always thinking that it's D1 or bust.
That is correct. Okay, Lonzo, I'm gonna turn it over to you so you can close us out.
Okay, well, I appreciate everybody for coming. I wanna, say, want you guys to take with you when never forget that you can always ask for help. Never get in a position to where you don't feel like you got help, you don't have the support. You may think you don't have the support, but it's actually more people that's willing to support you. But if you do not say nothing, nobody's gonna know. We're not mind readers, right? So closed mouths don't get fed. So you gotta be able to speak up when you need help. Ask for help. That's the point of the reason why we started this amongst athletes. We're trying to create a support system so we can help you guys, whether it's mentally, physically. We got trainers, coaches. We're calling all trainers, coaches, therapists, everybody to come help you guys. That's what we want to create this platform, because we got so much talent out here that's being left behind or not being seen or heard because they get caught up in the wrong things, like having the wrong friends, getting drawn into the wrong crowds, and things of that nature. So we want to keep you guys on a positive road and get you all the support that you need, so you have no excuses to make it to the next level. All right. Also.
Oh, go ahead. I wanted to say something.
No, that's it before.
So amongst athletes, I want to just drive home the fact that amongst athletes, it's for you, the athletes. That's the whole point. It's for the athletes. Something that you can use. And so if you have friends that you want to bring out to the next event, we want to have more events for the athletes. Fill these chairs up with more athletes. Also, I think when we close out, some people may have resonated with something that different people said, different people's stories. So we should make sure that we let them know how to get in contact with each of us, just in case one of the athletes that's here or somebody that end up seeing this wants to reach out to that individual, and hear more from them. So we should make sure when we close out, we do that.
Okay, yeah. So if you guys want to leave your information, it's fine.
Like your IG or
Yeah,
something. We should start with the guests, ladies first.
Well, you can reach me by my emails. That's tm254@husd.california.us.
Yep, and then you can reach me by my Instagram. It's s._right, WRIGHT. I'm gonna say it again, s._right, WRIGHT. And yeah.
Everything for me is Trainer Brain Fit Club, TTBFC, so it don't matter if it's my website, any of my social medias, my YouTube channels, everything is Trainer Brain Fit Club or TTBFC. My app is Trainer Brain Fit Club, and my book is Trainer Brain, anybody can follow. So everything is Trainer Brain.
And I can be reached on our website at openrebels.org, and my email address is openrebelsbasketball@gmail.com.
And you can find us on mixedbehaviorfoundation.com. That's pretty much how you can find the IG as well. So everything is there, and you can find these guys on there too. There's gonna be some links to where you can find everybody, ladies and guys, on our website. And I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank our guests, panelists, co-hosts, Shaman, Tiffany, Pierce, and Melvin for coming out and helping support and getting this thing started. I would love to thank Boss for allowing us to use the facility to create this space for you guys. Whenever you guys need help, you can come to Boss facility to get any information that you need. They're open for all types of self-sufficiency work. So, other than that, we're here.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Let's get a picture real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Trey.
Trey or Trey?
No, Trey.
You can say this all?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. I know you from somewhere, I didn't think.
Hey, I'm gonna take a picture with little Danny.
Oh, scoot over this way.
Yeah.
Right, 3, 2. Good question. One more. 3, 2.
Right. So you saying like for his stuff, it's gonna be the same? I was wondering that same thing. I don't know how to.
We all got on the mild black.
I know.
Everybody got black in their face.
Once you ask, I would say go one side.
Take a picture.
He might even be a little hard.
Okay.
Look at the mom. Look at the mom. Look at the mom.
He's big for me, like.
Okay, yeah. I used to teach AA. Yeah, I know. Okay. Yeah, he started, well, he brought the initiative over there.
Yeah, he brought this over.
Yeah,
Chapter started.
yeah. I started more with. Yeah, so yeah, I know. We had the other day. Yeah, no.
Take a picture.
Yeah, she's still doing it. Okay, yeah. That's very good.
I talked to him the other
I'm
day.
actually about to head out. I gotta try to got a boxing fight.
I said they need to get on.
Yeah. I appreciate everybody. I'm about to head out. I appreciate everybody.
I'm a cat. I was supposed to be on the next time. I'll be on the next one. Be the next one.
Have a good day.
We'll take a picture, man. We'll take a picture with Bill. We'll take a picture with all these guys.
Oh, yeah?
Huh? Oh, yeah. Let's just take a picture real quick.
Three, two. You can smile if you want to.
Man, we big bugging out here, man.
Some people look like somebody ate their lunch they were supposed to get. All right, 3, 2.
Never smile.
There you go.
Alright, man. I'm glad y'all came out.
I've been trying to put on my cool face. Really?
You so very. I'm gonna come to the next one. For sure. It's gonna be hard.
You want a shot? I don't know if you got too many shots.